What's up, guys? Today in this video we're going to do something a little bit different than my usual musical videos. So as I've been posting more and more, I've realized I haven't really talked about myself or just my past or who I am, why I play guitar, or, that kind of thing. And so I thought it'd be kind of fun to tell some stories in some episodes about where I've come from, why I play guitar, the guitar themselves, and just my stories that I have with them. So today we're going to start with episode 1. Now, as you could probably see from the title, this episode is going to be about why I play guitar, how I started, and actually my first guitar, which I'm actually holding right here. And it's this Epiphone Les Paul that we'll get to some of the details in just a little bit. So guitar for me actually started out as a need rather than a want. So my first instrument was the drums. My mom played keys growing up, so I kind of grew a little bit around music, but I never really did it like the way I do today or anything like that. So growing up, I played drums, and I had some classes when I was younger, and I kind of just played them for fun at my local church in Florida where I grew up. And then it wasn't until my teens that when we moved to Iowa that I actually stopped playing drums altogether. I was new to the state, new high school, new friends, just a whole change of life. And so music really was never a priority, and even less so when starting a new life. So it was many, many years before I actually picked up the drums again and started getting back into music. Again, we found a local church and just started playing more and more. And so I kind of became a drummer, and it's funny to say because I don't consider myself a drummer at all, but that's what I did for the longest time. And then I started taking on more responsibilities at my local church, and that meant leading worship sometimes, organizing set lists, running rehearsals, that kind of thing, while still being the drummer. So the church I was part of is actually a Hispanic small church, so there weren't that many musicians, and it was you had to do a lot with a little, right? So actually super talented people played multiple things. Some folks could play keys, sing, piano, but at the time I could only play drums, and so really that was just what I did all the time. But fast forward, we started growing as musicians, and I started growing as a musician, and new songs were coming out, and I was like, wow, wouldn't it be just so great if we had those guitar parts and and those guitar solos and all the things that make guitar so much fun. But there wasn't a guitarist at the time at church, and so we just had to do a lot of stuff without it. And we didn't have tracks, so this is back in the day, so there wasn't anything to really fill that guitar that was missing from just the songs. And so one day, the church had a guitar, and I talked to the pastor, and I just said, hey, could I take that home? And surprisingly enough, he let me take the church guitar home. And I started playing, and I was like, you know what, this isn't for me. And I tried a couple chords, my fingers hurt, and I think I just ended up taking it back to church and kind of forgetting about it for a little bit. But then I had a friend who actually loved to sing, and so she wanted some accompaniment because she knew I would play the drums and I played at church and so forth. And she was like, hey, do you play anything else? I'd love to, if you had some keys or guitar that I could sing along to. And so I was like, I should probably try this guitar thing again because it's still missing from church, and now friends are asking me to play with them, but I'm still on the drums. So I actually went and I said, okay, I'm gonna go buy an acoustic guitar because you can sing along to that anywhere, and by investing some money in it, I'm gonna stick with it. And if I don't, well, I lost a little bit of money, but it wasn't anything too expensive. So my first guitar was actually, I remember I went to Guitar Center and I picked out like the cheapest Fender acoustic guitar that I could find. And that was basically what I cut my teeth on. I stayed with it actually, and my fingers hurt for several weeks, but then, you started getting the calluses, and just many months passed by. And I remember it was about 6 months of just practicing day in and day out, and slowly but surely I started falling in love with it. And I was like, wow, this is really great. I'm strumming chords. I couldn't play at this point, I think maybe the minor pentatonic scale and to play a couple notes, but really I was just strumming chords for 6 months. And so, but I remember it was about 6 months before I actually went back to church, and I was like, okay, band, I think I can play a full song on acoustic guitar. And so that was a really big turning point, and that's just a moment I'll never forget, because the first time I, was playing a new instrument. All my life had been drums, and now all of a sudden I'm playing an instrument with notes, right? So it went as well as it could for someone who'd only played, 6 months at the time, but that was really the beginning point of what would become, I guess, my guitar career. So shortly after that, again, as I said, there was still that need in church with wanting to play those songs that had those cool electric guitar rhythms and solos. And I remember songs like Osana by Marcos Barrientos had a really big solo. Hillsong, I Surrender, Nigel Hendroff, really big solo. Just things like that. I was like, wow, I really want to play those things. Or I just want my church to play those things and experience those things. It was something new for everybody. So anyway, fast forward a little bit. I stuck with the acoustic for a little bit more. But still mainly playing the drums at that time. And then I said, okay, I'm starting to get the hang of this chord things, but if I want to get into that territory that I feel is missing, I gotta get an electric guitar. I gotta find one. So there's a couple people at church that started coming, and some of them could play a little bit of guitar. And so the electric one that was previously lent to me by the pastor was actually being used now. And so I had to figure out, okay, I need one at home. There's a free one no longer available to me, but I gotta get one. So just like with the acoustic, I said, hey, if I invest money in this, I think I'm gonna stick with it. At the time, I didn't know you needed pedals or an amp or what tone was or anything like that. It's so funny to think about. I was just like, I'm gonna get an electric guitar, and then these solos and these songs are just gonna happen. So I went back to the same Guitar Center, and I think at the time, the reason I got this Epiphone Les Paul was because I was listening to a lot of Slash. I was trying to look up some influences, and it wasn't until later that the John Mayer, Stevie Ray Vaughan, those kind of people came around later. But I remember Slash being like the first one. I was like, okay, I kind of want to play that, even though it's completely different from the worship world. But so I was like, okay, I went to the Guitar Center. And I was looking at the Les Pauls, and at the time I didn't know Gibsons cost so much. I was like, I'm just going to go get the same one Slash plays, and then I'm going to rock it out. But nope, wow, I'm not going to be able to get a Gibson. But then, the employees at Guitar Center told me, hey, they make what's called Epiphones, which are a more affordable version of the same guitars. So I was like, sweet. I looked at the huge wall, and then this one just called my attention. I saw the blue, and hopefully you can see that. There's a little swirl there on the finish, and I was like, wow, that one looks really cool, and I really like blue. So I was like, I'm going to go with that one. And sure enough, that same day, I took this one home. I think it cost me $500 or something like that, which was huge for me at the time, because I remember the acoustic guitar that I talked about was maybe like $150. So this was several times that, and I was like, gosh, I really hope I stick with this. And so I took it home, and I was super excited to play, and it was at that moment I realized I did not have an amp. And I was like, how am I going to play this? So, several hours of Googling later was when I started. I knew nothing, okay, like at all. Coming from drum world, I just didn't know about computers or music productions or plugins or anything like that, audio interfaces and so forth. So, but so what I did at first, actually, I think I used the Logic, like their guitar suite or guitar pedals that they have just within Logic, and that was my first guitar tones, and that's when I started. That's what I started playing with. So, I just think it's kind of funny when I came home that day and I played this. I was like, yeah, this is gonna sound so good. And when I plugged this in and I played it through Logic, I was disheartened right away because coming from the acoustic, acoustic instruments, I know, very articulate, very detailed. You can get so much feeling out of it. But when I plug this in and I hear those electrical notes come through, I was just like, wow, I do not know how to play guitar yet, because every little open string was just amplified that much more. I didn't really know how to mute or anything, and it sounded so. I just remember I was like, I think I'm a better acoustic player, or I probably thought at the time, I think I'm gonna go back to acoustic and just be an acoustic player. But no, as I learned more about the electrical instrument and how it works and everything, I stuck with it, and that's why today I still I have an acoustic guitar, but I don't consider myself an acoustic player. I love the sound, and I totally respect people that like that's their main guitar instrument, and I do like it. But if I have the choice of playing an acoustic or an electric, I think 99 out of 100 times I'll probably pick the electric over the acoustic. But this is one I will probably always keep and never sell. Again, not about the monetary value, but just what it means to me and what it started. And you'll see in future episodes, just this is the one that just started all the stories to come. So if you like this stuff, give this a thumbs up, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you in the next episode.